Good evening. My name is Brandon Stitt. I am going to present on my daily small group phonics instruction for second grade students. This is an action research plan that is created for Baker University as a part of my master's for building leadership. The purpose of the action research was to increase student reading performance. I took a look at some of my students' reading data in second grade, and I noticed that I had three students in particular that were reading well below grade level. They were reading about a grade to two grade levels below, which is a significant gap to try to close. And so the purpose was set out to try to find a way that I could provide them some sort of small group instruction to increase their reading level so that they could close that achievement gap and hopefully be back to grade level by the end of the year. The thought was that the best option would be to look at giving them some phonics instruction, because as I took a look at their reading test, I noticed that the biggest issue that they had was not with the comprehension, but it was with the phonics and not being able to decode the words correctly. So my thought was to provide phonics instruction. The second purpose that I had for this was to increase the attitude towards reading. These students did not have a good attitude towards reading. They didn't have a purpose. They didn't see the purpose of reading. They thought it was a waste of time. So I wanted to change that attitude and hopefully give them a purpose for reading and hopefully allow them to become better readers and enjoy reading. The thought was that they got better at reading, that they would find enjoyment in it again, and hopefully begin to read more on their own and have a purpose in it. And finally, the last purpose of this action research was to close the achievement gap of these students. So hopefully that by the end of the year, they would be close to grade level, if not on grade level. So I started by doing some research, and I took a look at several different research articles about phonics instruction, and a couple were noted. Scanlon noted that instruction improvements were created by teachers who analyze and respond to the instructional needs of their lower achieving students. So that's pretty basic information. If you take a look at your students' needs and you attack their needs and you provide instruction based on what their needs are, their achievement gap is going to close significantly faster than if you just stick to teaching them whatever curriculum and resources you have available. The next research that I found that was noted is from Hamill, and he noted that beginning readers who are taught phonics do better in decoding than children taught by other approaches. So I thought that was pretty significant, considering these students are 1 to 2 grade levels behind. That puts them at a kindergarten reading level or a first grade reading level. So that tells me that they are still really in the beginning of reading, and it was really important for them to learn the phonics so that they could help with their decoding. The final thing that I noted that was really important was from the National Reading Panel, and this was taken in 2009. And it said the systematic phonics instruction enhances children's success in learning to read and is significantly more effective than instruction that teaches little or no phonics. So that was kind of a big aha moment there, because it says that the phonics instruction is going to increase their success in reading a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently and effectively than if you were to teach without phonics. So next was the data collection plan. So what I decided to do is a research design type of one group pre-test post-test model, and it was going to be over a period of 3 weeks. So I was going to start with a pre-test. I gave all three students a passage one at a time, and they had to read as much as they could, and it was 162 words, and it was a second grade reading passage. They had to read as many words as they could in 1 minute, and so I tracked how many words they read correct in 1 minute. And then I recorded that number. So basically what I was looking at is their reading fluency. The next thing I gave all three students individually was an attitude assessment, and this was 3 questions, and all 3 questions had a rating scale of strongly agree, agree, neither agree nor disagree, disagree, and strongly disagree. And so they had to mark what they felt about phonics and reading. After I gave them a 3-week phonics intervention for 15 minutes daily, so every day they came to a small group setting, just the 3 of them, and I taught them explicit phonics instruction that was based on what I felt their phonics needs was at the time. And the phonics needs that I got was from the reading assessments that I had given previously. So I was taking a look at their words that they were missing and seeing what it was that they were missing, what phonics instruction they needed the most. After the 3 weeks was up, I gave them a post-test, which also was the same passage as before. It was 162 words, and they had to read as much of it as they could in 1 minute. And then I also gave them that same reading attitude assessment after the intervention to see if their attitude changed. So then after the 3 weeks was up, I collected the data. As you can see in front here, I have words read correct for 1 minute. I have a table that shows student A, B, and C. So student A started off with 11 words read in 1 minute, and then at the end of the 3 weeks had 24 words read in 1 minute, which gave a gain of 13. Student B started off with 20 and ended with 46 words, which gave a gain of 26 words in 1 minute. Student C started off with 11 as well, just like student A, but ended with 54 words read in 1 minute, which had a gain of 43. In all, they started off with 42 words combined. They ended with 134 words combined, which had a gain of 82. And to the right, you can see a chart that shows their graph. Each color, the red is student A, the pink is student B, and then the purple is student C. And you can see the pre-test and the post-test. And then finally, I have a graph that shows their gain by each student. And so you can see student A did okay, student B did better, and student C did the best. The next piece that I collected was the qualitative data. And so I gave them that survey, and the 3 questions that was on the survey was, how do you feel about reading? How do you feel about phonics? And then finally, do you think phonics will help you read? And so I gave those 5 responses that they were allowed to choose, which was strongly agree, agree, neither agree nor disagree, disagree, and strongly disagree. I gave those all a rating of 1 through 5, 1 being the worst, the negative attitude, and 5 being the best, the positive attitude. And then I collected that data at the beginning and the end of the intervention. So student A had an average of 1.6, which is a pretty low negative attitude towards reading. Student B had an average of 2.0, which is still pretty low. The goal would be to have a 3 or higher. Student C had an average of 2.3, which was still pretty low. When you look at their post-test data down below, you can see that student A had an average of 2.3 towards reading and phonics instruction. That was an increase of 0.7, which is not really that great of an increase, but it still was an increase. Student B, you can see, ended with a total of 3.3, which had an increase of 1.3, and that 3.3, that tells me that that student has a more positive attitude towards reading. And then finally, student C had an average of 4, which is on the agree side, which is a much more positive attitude towards reading. And student C had a increase of 1.7. So the results show that all students improved in words read per minute, and also all students' attitude towards reading became more positive. So some student A started off with a negative attitude and ended with a negative attitude, but the change was a positive change, which I believe if this were to continue, that change would continue to be a more positive. So ultimately the goal is that the intervention will continue through the rest of the year, and hopefully I will still see consistent results as I saw over these 3 weeks. And my hope is to be able to provide this intervention to more students than the 3 that I just gave it to. So ultimately, I want to take all this results to my instructional coach, and my goal is to be able to utilize all of this information in this data and get more of the primary teachers on board with this plan. It's a quick and easy instruction to provide for just 15 minutes to a small group, and it really showed a lot of gain in just a short amount of time. I will continue to use this intervention for the rest of the year, and as I do, I will continue to collect the data every 3 weeks. That way my groups can continue to be fluid, and I can change students in and out as I need to. That's it for my action research plan. Thank you for listening.